Good morning, everybody. I am Salavalo, and I have been to every single country in the world, and most of my videos are about travel. But next month, I am turning 30 years old, and so I am spending the next few weeks reflecting on my 20s, making some videos, personal reflections, mostly for myself, for some of you guys who want to get to know me better, about some big moments in my 20s and what I am feeling before I turn 30. So today I wanted to make a video about something that's been kind of an important part of 20s, or for a lot of people it is, and that is why I stopped drinking. So a lot of people assume that it's just because I am Muslim and that I would have stopped drinking right when I converted. But as I tell you the story, you'll see that it's a lot more to do with than just the conversion, and that there are a lot of other factors, and that it's not just connected to Islam. So a little bit of my background. So I grew up in the States. Obviously in the States there is somewhat of a drinking culture, especially in high school and in college. But my family really never drank. There wasn't alcohol in the house. My father doesn't drink beer. My parents would have parties, but there wasn't alcohol just wasn't a huge part of my growing up at all. There weren't a lot of people that I saw drinking in any kind of positive way. We did have some history of alcoholism in the family, in other generations, and so the only kind of knowledge of alcohol that I had was more on the negative side than anything. And also I'm the youngest of my siblings, but my older siblings, they never really got into drinking much at all. So there wasn't much of a culture around me through my family of drinking much really at all. So, there wasn't that kind of foundation of thinking that alcohol was a big part of life. Now that said, I did first start drinking when I was pretty young in high school, just because of the party scene. When I was a freshman in high school, the first big dance of the year, the Christmas dance, was the first time that I got, really, really drunk. And I was probably only 14 or 15. And, it was this all night event, this big party. There was lots of drinking all around. I remember it's this big thing of how to get the alcohol, because obviously when you're 14 or 15, it's not legal in the States to get it. And so, yeah, I just remember it being this kind of a big high school party like you see in the movies. And it was, the first thing we got drunk off was disgusting 99 bananas, which is this really high alcohol content, disgusting flavored thing. And we drank it secretly in a closet, and then we mixed it with Gatorade or something, and we stayed there the whole night. And I remember that the next day I was a little bit sick, and my parents found out that I had been drunk, I guess the night before, when they picked me up. And because my father had never been drunk in his whole life, they didn't get me in trouble or anything. They just said, my father told me, "You've done something in 14 years, which I haven't done in 44. And that was a big, I'm disappointed kind of thing. But I continued to drink occasionally in high school. I went 2 years to high school, a normal American high school. We would drink, at football games, at parties afterwards. But it wasn't so much, that I felt it was unhealthy in any way, other than us being really young. Then I went to boarding school, and at my boarding school, there was somewhat of a drinking culture. I didn't participate in it too much. It was really kind of difficult to get sometimes, and it was, you could get expelled for it. And there were parties where we would drink, but it wasn't a huge part of my boarding school experience at all. When I got into college in New York, drinking was, again, kind of a thing we would do on the weekends a little bit, but it was never that big of a thing. I don't know, I would do it sometimes, but and for parties, probably once a week, on the weekends, but again, not something that was a huge focus. I think when I studied abroad though, that was the bigger focus of kind of the college life, drinking and partying. But I think when I graduated college, I had had a lot of those experiences of like drinking and going out to the clubs and getting wasted. I never like blacked out or anything, and it wasn't something regular, and I don't think I had ever like bought alcohol myself. I always just did it whenever we were at parties. And then right after college, like a couple months after I graduated, is when I converted to Islam. And you would think maybe that because drinking is not part of Islam, that I would have just like stopped then, because a lot of people think that converts will like instantly follow all of the rules of a religion. But I didn't stop at the time. In fact, I kind of accelerated the use. And I think that I can't like defend it in any way, because alcohol and getting into this distorted state of mind is very much haram, or away from is like a sin in Islam. But at the time, I think my focus with Islam was always just to get closer to the divine and to take out the things in my life that I thought were taking me away from that. And for whatever reasons, I didn't stop drinking because of Islam at the beginning. So that's actually when I started getting way more like into drinking, because it was legal, of age. I was a professional. I was in a lot more situations where there was a lot of alcohol. There's a lot of like situations I was in where there was a lot of free alcohol, like office drinks, and like going to the club where people would just get like big bottles and having parties and stuff. And also I was working in a job where you got like a per diem, like amount of money every day that you could spend on like food and stuff, and that we were able to use that with alcohol. So it kind of like, I don't know, we would use it on wine and we would use it on drinks. And so from the age of like 22 until 25 is probably when I drank the most. I was like working, so maybe as a stress relief, but also like every social event that I was at in that time included alcohol, and sometimes a lot of it. Like I got like very drunk, like a lot, and it was a lot of like really fun times. So I wouldn't necessarily say that I regret the drinking that I did from like 22 to 25, because I don't know, it was part of what we were doing. It was very social. It was probably not entirely healthy, but it was fun. I don't think I ever got on the verge of like alcoholism or anything. But when I was 25, a couple times I realized that when like drinking, I didn't necessarily always like the person that I became. I also felt like a lot of the reasons that other people would drink, like wanting to like loosen up, I could do without alcohol. Like I'm always the one dancing the most on the dance floor, sober or not. So there weren't as many like reasons. I also hated the way it physically made me feel. And so I really wanted to slow down. And at that point is when I started to travel full time, from like 25 to 27. And whenever I was traveling, I would always like to try the local stuff. So the local beer, or, tequila in Mexico, and rum in the Caribbean, palm wine in the Pacific, whatever it was that was like the local drink. I always wanted to try that because I thought that it was a really like interesting cultural thing. Like drinking is a big part of a lot of cultures, and so I felt like participating in it and trying it was a really cool part of travel. And so I would always go out and seek that. I would wonder like, what is the drink that you guys drink the most? And I would do that, and I always felt that was fun, and I really liked to do that, to try all of the different alcohols all around the world, to explore those different cultures, to see the different norms. So I enjoyed that, but I really started to like slow it down. I started to think, I only want to drink if there was a reason. And that's kind of what I had said from 25 until 27 was, I'll only drink if there is like a purpose. If I'm trying something new, if I'm at an event, if I'm at like a party or whatever it might be. But then I started realizing, one, I finished visiting every country, and so I didn't have to try any new countries' alcohol or beer or whatever, because I had already had all of them, right? I had already been to every country, I had tried everything. I also realized that none of these like reasons to drink were real reasons. I could go to a party and not drink. I could be at a wedding and not drink. And so I drank a lot at my big finale in Malta. We had this big party. It was really, really fun. But after that, I decided I'm not going to drink anymore because I don't have to. There were 4 main reasons that I ultimately stopped drinking. The first was about the experiences. A lot of people drink to make an experience better, and I just always felt like in my sober state I could enjoy the experience as much as I could if I was drunk. I felt like these social norms of having to drink at a wedding or having to like drink at a party or toast to a celebration, I didn't feel like I had to do that. And so I never felt like drinking was required. And I felt like in a lot of these situations, it was something that was kind of like forced or expected. And I didn't feel like I needed those experiences in my life and that I could do them all in a sober way. So that was the main reason, was that I never felt like alcohol enhanced an experience. The second reason is Islam. So drinking is haram, or is against Islam, is against my religion. And I wouldn't say guilty, but I always knew that it was a sin, and I always felt like it was when I was doing it in that period when I was a Muslim and I was drinking. And I would kind of like validate it by saying that I was like having these new experiences or trying new cultures, but I always knew that it was something I didn't need to do and that it wasn't bringing me closer to God, and that meant it wasn't something that I should be doing. And so what's funny is most people think that Islam is the main reason that I don't drink, and it's really not. It's not the kind of like the focus of my decision to not be drinking. Also, I think that when thinking about alcohol and Islam, there's a couple things that people like misunderstand. One is like the idea of sin in Islam. Everybody always thinks that there are these like very, very strict rules, and that if you like have 1 drop of alcohol, you're like no longer a Muslim. In Islam, we're very aware that we are all sinners and we all sin every single day, which is why every time that we pray, when we're prostrating and doing our prayer, putting our heads on the ground, when we come back up, we say astaghfirullah, we say like, basically forgive me for my sins. And we say that 20 times a day, every single time that we're praying, because we are all sinners. And so we love to focus on sins that we can see, or sins of the body, like drinking or like eating something, but there are much worse like sins of the mind as well. So though it is a sin, there are many other sins that I know that I also do, and I want to try to stop all of them. And on the kind of like the list of things that I'm trying to better in my life, alcohol was never something that I felt like was my biggest sin, if that makes sense. The second thing is the references to alcohol in Islam. So alcohol is mentioned really like 3 main times in the Quran, and it's like a progression. And the first time it says, do not pray drunk, then it says, do not get drunk, then it says, do not drink, right? And Islam, in the Quran, it is a series of speeches that are given over like a many-year period that slowly brought the followers of Muhammad, peace be upon him, into the truth of Islam. And so that was kind of like the journey that people took. And I used to say, and I don't agree with this at all, but I used to say to myself, oh, I'm doing that journey as well. So I wouldn't pray drunk, and I was drinking only for experiences, then I wasn't drinking at all. I don't agree with that, but that was my thinking like at the time. The third reason why I stopped drinking was health. I hated when I would go to a party and then I would come home and I would like feel sick. And the next day you were groggy, and you would gain a lot of weight. It was a lot of like calories, and it was just unhealthy. I mean, alcohol is poison, and I think it's this weird cultural norm that in most places it's like, welcome to my home, here's poison, and I think that is kind of crazy. And so I don't want to be unhealthy. I focus a lot on like what I eat and exercising, and I just felt like alcohol didn't fit into that at all. And I also love now when I can go out with my friends and enjoy a night and go dancing or whatever, and then come back home and read before I go to bed, because I can focus and I can wake up the next morning and go for a run because I'm not hungover and I'm not sick and I'm not like feeling gross. And then the fourth reason that I stopped drinking is the least important one, but it's the money. A lot of my friends like spend so much money on alcohol. Like every weekend they go and they spend hundreds of dollars drinking at clubs and sometimes even thousands of dollars buying really nice stuff. It's a thing that you can collect, nice wine or whatever, and that's totally fine. But I just never felt like paying for something that I would consume made any sense. And I do think that I've been able to focus on other things that I enjoy more because I didn't spend all the money on alcohol. So to the question of if I would ever drink again, I think probably not. I can imagine a situation where I could see it as something exciting or something new that I would want to try, but I do not feel like it has taken away from my life at all these past years to not drink. So I don't necessarily see it as something that I would have to do. But I also go back to thinking of, I do believe that it is a sin to my religion that doesn't bring me closer to God. But there are other things that I want to focus on improving in my life more than whether or not I have one glass of wine or something. But it's been so many years now that I haven't, that I don't really foresee it as something that will become a part of my life again. So this has been my story of why I stopped drinking. I hope that some of you can connect to parts of it, that it makes sense. Comment down below your own journey, and and let me know. I love to talk to you guys, and talk to you like friends and tell you these stories, and to have these videos for my memory. So I hope that you enjoyed it. Comment down below, and we'll have a conversation about it. Have a good day.